Leatherworking books. Do we still need them in a digital age? Let's have a look. So welcome to part 2 of the book review. If you've not seen the first part, it'll be linked in the description, and just a bit of an introduction. So discussing why physical books are better than digital copies of books. It's not necessarily that they're better because the information's still the same, but a lot of the older style of books, because we didn't have mediums such as the internet and it would have been a book, have actual patterns, real size cutting patterns in them. So two of my favourite books are The Art of Making Leather Cases Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Al Stallman. When I worked for Tandy, this was the thing that I would suggest new leather workers would get. And I would sell these, multiple ones of these, constantly because it's such a useful book. So, great little piece. There are 3 in the series. I don't like the third one, so I don't have it. It was not necessary for me, so looking at bigger cases. So in this, I used to be able to flick through this and tell you exactly what was on every page. So the first page we get to is page 4. Gives you some examples of how to attach straps to things. Fantastic. You're looking at cases, you want to attach a strap. Do you want to rivet it on? Do you want to rivet 2 on one side? Do you want to stitch down some shields? Do you want to rivet it on underneath, on top? Just put a slit in it. Oh, wow, fantastic. Great information. What about if you're cutting a hole? You can either use a bag punch or a crew punch, also known as an oblong punch, or you can punch 2 holes and cut between them. This, on the first page of actual information, tells you when cutting out the slot, always make cuts away from the holes as shown by the arrows, which is an old engineer's trick. You never finish a cut. So what you do is you punch a hole and you punch a hole and you cut from one edge, 3/4 of the way down, cut from the other edge until you meet it. And the reason we don't cut all the way is you could accidentally use the middle of your blade and catch the other side of the hole. You end up cutting through your work. Now, this is something that seems quite intuitive to know, that not to cut through your work. But unless you've made the mistake yourself, you tend to cut. And this gives you a very useful piece of information like that on the first page. This is a good one. So this is D's and shields, so how to attach a D-ring to a bag, or anything really. And these patterns here are actual size, so you can get a piece of paper, trace over the top, and then transfer that to a template or a piece of leather. I actually have one which I've been using for years, just in a drawer, which I took, that's a bit of bag stiffener, and I just took that from here. What else have we got to show you? So things about knife cases, knife slips. A lot of people talk about knife slips, knife cases, a lot of EDC folk. I've got patterns, or will probably have patterns available if you get in touch. But this does something quite clever. So on here, it mentions about doing different type of drawers. So if you wanted a backwards drawer, if it was based on your back, or a forwards drawer, so left or right-handed drawers, it makes it quite simple to put that together, because all it's telling you to do is angle the belt loop. So keep the pattern for the knife itself the same and just angle where the belt loop goes. Another great thing here is if you're making a retention strap for a knife, not to put the strap on the outside, because you run the risk of cutting through it, and it can also get snagged on any part of the knife. If you're pulling it out and it's got a bolster on it, it can get stuck on that. So what it says is to put it behind it, put it underneath. Great bit of information, sort of 20 pages in. Lots of different bits and pieces in here. Some of this is very outdated. Cigarette cases, snuff box case. I'm not saying you need to make a snuff box, but being able to do this technique is fantastic. I made a rum bottle carrier for a friend of mine that has a rum company, and using very similar techniques to how this is designed and implemented. And just lots of different bits and pieces. This is my #1 purchase for leatherwork. Camera cases. Cameras do still have big lenses, I guess. The other thing that I like is the dice cup. So yeah, again, it's not something that you might tend to find. If you know people that play tabletop games, they might use a lot of dice. But it's not something that we'd have. It's not 1920s New York. We're not rolling around the back of the alley. But what this can do is teach you some great techniques for your stitching and for your pattern making as well. And also there's a bit of personalisation you can put onto it. Be it tooling, stamping, painting, laser cutting, whatever it may be. You can do this on a nice sort of rectangular piece of leather and then just stitch it together, put a base on it. You might not use it as a dice cup, but you could use it as a desk tidy, for example, to put your pens in, make it look nice. Great gift idea. And another thing that I love about this one is the handles. So we'll look more at handles in the second book, but this one just gives you a bit of an idea. So these are the sorts of handles that you get here, where it can be permanently fixed, and then we'll have sort of more flexible ends. So this is showing it on a thermal bottle carrier, because that was a thing. But gun slips, a lot of gun slips, shotgun cases have these style of handles, and essentially all you do is make it a little bit longer. So that is the Art of Making Cases Volume 1. The Art of Making Leather Cases Volume 2 is, I mentioned handles, is great for handles. So this just goes on and on for handles. Pages of handles, loads of different types of handles, how to do filled handles, rolled handles, fixed handles, things about putting handle keepers on if you want to stitch it on, if you want to use, get your press studs on here as well. How to reinforce hardware. This is a really useful one. A really sort of good thing to learn and to know about is reinforcing your hardware. So when I attach D-rings to cases, I'll always put a thick piece of vegetable tan leather around, and then whatever the leather that I'm finishing with will go on top as a finish. But reinforce it when installing loops. Reinforce it. Makes perfect sense. Zippers. People ask me how to install zippers quite often, and it's quite easy when you know how, but it's having the confidence to just do it. This talks you through it step by step, how to install zippers and how to make them shorter, longer, etc. And shorten a zipper. You can't really make it longer, I guess, but you can definitely shorten it. So the bleed knot that we looked at in the first video comes into practice here. Use it as a decorative pull tab. Different types of hardware for cases. Some of this might be outdated now, but you can still probably find a lot of it. French edge tool, which we saw in the Big Old Leather Secrets book, showing you how to use that to put gouges in for bending leather over. So this is what I mentioned earlier about the real size patterns, which is why I think it's beneficial to buy actual books. So to make a diplomat pouch, or you could turn this into just a normal document pouch, or something to put your iPad in, etc. That sort of thing. But what this has got is a Concertina Gusset, and what it shows you is not only how to make it, but sizes and step-by-step ways to do it, but also the pattern for the gusset. Actual size. From here, centre mark, comes all the way up, so you can trace that out onto a piece of paper and then transfer that to your leather. Not so easy to do without if you're going to buy this digitally, you can do, and you can print it off and hope that it's the right size, but here it's ready to go, and it's really fun as a leather worker to sort of thumb through this, looking at putting welts in, and you'll just learn something new. You're never going to make a bowling ball case, and if you do, please tag me in it. But the techniques that you'll pick up, a bit of braiding on here, lacing braiding work, using a lacing chisel instead of a stitching chisel, putting zippers onto things, putting zippers around corners, all these lovely little things that these books are just absolutely full of great information. That's the Art of Making Leather Cases, Volumes 1 and 2 by Alf Stolman. Put links description when I can find them. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more leatherworking tips, tricks and build-alongs, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be notified when new videos go live.